Hey everybody, welcome back to Pro AV. Today, I'm your host, Ben Thomas. Today's a very special episode looking back on 20 years of the HDMI connection protocol. Had such a massive impact on the Pro AV and signal flow industries. And I wanted to bring on somebody that can jump in, speak to some of the things where we've seen improvements with the HDMI technology, and maybe speak about some of the ways that the next 20 years could look as well. And that's Brad Bramey over from the HDMI crew. Brad, thanks so much for coming on today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Ben. This is going to be fun, I hope.
Yeah, well, we'll try and make it as fun as possible. You know, Brad, in some form, you've had a part in a majority of the success of HDMI over the years, either directly or indirectly. You know, what has that meant for not only HDMI as an organization as a whole, but also the rest of the signal flow community?
Okay, well, really, currently I'm just representing a lot of very talented groups and some people, and that really does go back over 20 years ago when the concept for high definition multimedia interface got started with the original group at Silicon Image, and then, of course, the founders. So there were the original seven founders. They're still around in one form or another, and so they're the ones that really got it going. And it's kind of interesting if you look back at the old press releases that are actually they're on our site htmi.org. You can kind of see what the original concept was because it was about uh, digital video and it was also about HDCP. So high definition content protection was really the important thing. And I think this was the first digital interface to really enable that. So it was really the industry getting together at a very high level, which were the movie studios, TV studios, and HDCP crew and Silicon Image and the original seven founders. And that's how it all got started. And if you look at how it's progressed over really 20 years from the launch, from HDMI 1 being introduced, it certainly has changed a lot. And I think it's changed how people consume their media because all TVs obviously didn't have an HDMI port, and then one port's added, another port, and very quickly 100% of the TV shipping have HDMI connectivity. And people think about HDMI, well, maybe not your listeners because they're savvy, but people think
Smart
of
people.
yeah, well, people that are in the industry and they know about signaling technology and everything. And sometimes people think, well, HDMI is just a port or a plug or a hunk of metal or something, but it's a pretty complex technology. And as it's evolved over the years, the number of features that have been added, the capabilities um, to enable more and more immersive and interactive and interesting entertainment, as well as some commercial applications, is actually pretty astounding.
Well, I love that you brought up the HDCP side as well. I mean, obviously, pretty much everybody in the industry knows that HDMI is a licensed protocol. You know, that goes to obviously the cable manufacturers and also the TV manufacturers as well. You know, how important are those manufacturer partners in the success of the 20 years of HDMI?
Well, keep in mind that I work for HDMI licensing administrator. So we are the agent and we represent the specifications. And that includes the specification, the originals, and that goes up to 1.4b from the founders. And then the technology was handed over to the HDMI Forum, which is an open trade group. And they're the ones that released HDMI 2.0. Now the specification is up to HDMI 2.1a. So we are the licensing agent. We represent all the specifications and those two groups. And really, it is about licensing for um, products that are enabled with HDMI to work together, to interoperate together, and to operate seamlessly. It's all about the licensing. It's about compliance. It's about ATC testing. It's about the certification. And it doesn't stop there because it's a continuous process with our group. We're always working with adopters. Excuse me. And keep in mind that our adopters are not necessarily the brand uh, that end users are familiar with. A lot of adopters make products for other people. So it's a very complicated chain of manufacturers. And so we have maybe about 2,000 adopters. Well over half are in China. The others are scattered around the world. And really, it's the licensing that is the most important thing. So there's a licensing agreement, there's all kinds of addendums. You have to be in compliance with the agreement, and most importantly, you have to be in compliance with the specifications. And the specifications aren't just the spec, it also includes the compliance test spec, because these things are constantly being refined and constantly being improved upon. And there's a whole ecosystem in place. There's the official and approved test gear manufacturers. In fact, all this stuff is on the site on hdmi.org. You can see the official test gear manufacturers. There's the authorized test centers. And right now, with the forum producing the current spec, these groups and all these companies, I didn't count recently how many groups or how many companies are in the forum, maybe like 80, 85, 90. Um, all these groups come together. They're from a diverse group of industries and sectors, along with the test equipment manufacturers and along with the ATCs, and they're the ones that are producing these specifications. So if you're mentioning the importance of licensing, all of this ecosystem is pulled together with licensing and compliance. And that's really what we do, hand in hand with the HDMI forum and the founders. And it's so important if you want this stuff to work. And a lot of what we do, you know what's been happening recently? Now that you ask, now that I'm waking up, what's been happening is starting back in 2018 is when what are called the Trump tariffs took place, right? And this thing with China. And what a lot of manufacturers did starting then is, in order to avoid the tariffs, they maybe got their products manufactured in other countries. And then you kind of look at the definition of the word manufactured, because that's kind of hard to do. You can't just move stuff over to Vietnam instantly, maybe if you're a cable manufacturer. But a lot of things were just assembled in other countries. So the manufacturing might have been done in China or someplace else, and they ship some components or almost a finished product someplace else, or maybe just the packaging is done in another country. And what that means is the supply chain changes. And that's important for a couple of reasons, because we train, our compliance team trains customs and borders agents around the world. We're looking for unlicensed or counterfeit products because those don't usually work. And that presents a lot of problems to the industry. And now with COVID, the last couple of years, the supply chain has again been disrupted or changed. And so as the ships and as the planes and as the trucks now are going all over in different routes, maybe the customs and borders agents are seeing products uh, at a level that they haven't seen before. Maybe they're understaffed. Maybe they don't understand what they're supposed to do. So some unscrupulous companies may be trying to take advantage of that, and there may be more unlicensed products, not just from HDMI, but from a lot of from a lot of technologies or licensed technologies. Maybe more of that stuff is sneaking through, and so that's why licensing is so important to end users, to your listeners, your viewers, because they want to be assured that they're getting products from a licensed manufacturer. I'll tell you the other thing that's happening, if you don't mind me going on, now that you got me going. A lot of times, and this is really unfortunate, a lot of times, um, it could be a reseller or a retailer or an integrator or a distributor. Sometimes they just get a call or they get a notification that some products that might have their brand on it, or some products that they're expecting, are seized. They're held up at customs someplace in some country, and they can't understand why. And if it happens to be because of HDMI licensing issues, it's like, well, you bought some unlicensed product. It's counterfeit, and Customs and Borders, they're just holding it. And the reseller, retailer brand could be completely innocent. It's not their fault. They thought that they were buying licensed product and they weren't. And I'm telling you, once Customs and Borders seizes products, very rarely do you get it out of there. That's not their business, is to be involved in the negotiation between a licensing organization and a manufacturer. And so it's been on the increase really the last 3 years, and products are seized. And unfortunately, it couldn't come at the worst time. It's leading into a very busy time, or selling season, or the holidays. And there's not much you can do about it. And so you're out of stock on this particular product, and that's it. And so that's why I always talk to people. and say, if you're a reseller, if you're a brand, if you're a retailer, if you're an integrator, if you're a distributor, make sure you're buying licensed products. It's got to be in your terms and conditions. Ask to see the paperwork, do your due diligence, and don't be caught short because of some paperwork error or because you didn't do your diligence. So it's really important.
Yeah, well, one of the great things about being such a good protocol with some staying power is that people want to copy it, right? But that's where the licensing really comes in and starts to be important, especially when you look at the past 20 years and the evolutions and upgrades that you guys have made, through the organization. Obviously now being north of HDMI 2.0 and 2.1. What are some of the things that you're seeing now stepping into maybe the 23, 24 that you guys are looking at implementing soon?
Well, again, we're the licensing agent. It's the HDMI forum that develops the spec. And they're pretty good at not pre-announcing what they're going to do, right? So I can't speak for them, and although sometimes I do, but they don't announce anything, right? It's a closely held secret what they're working on. But I can tell you from our perspective, and what we can talk about is 2.1a has been out for a while. The features have been out for a while, but what you're seeing now are more of the features being implemented because most of the features are optional, right? If you're a display manufacturer or a set-top box or an AVR, um, you don't have to implement all the features of 2.1a. But what you're seeing is more of these features are making higher penetration into more product categories. And it's really exciting to see, especially for the gaming category. There used to be gaming monitors and there used to be TVs, but with 2.1, now 2.1a, you're seeing a lot of very advanced gaming features available to TV manufacturers, and they've been really excited about it. So that's why you see pretty much all major manufacturers have at least a few lines of displays or TVs that have these advanced gaming features like variable refresh rate, quick frame transport, obviously auto low latency mode. And when you combine that with like 4K 120, it's pretty cool. So it changes the nature of how people maybe consume or do gaming because now you're not reliant on just having to get a specialized gaming monitor. Now you can get a really good sized TV, whether it's 65, 75, 85 inch, stick it on the wall, and it's got these advanced gaming features that you can now play with your friends or your family in the living room. And some of the TVs with these advanced gaming features are now just down to like maybe 40, 42 inches. In fact, we had a 42-inch LG at CES, and they have the advanced gaming features. So 42-inch, that's not too big to put on your desktop and have this immersive experience. Even 8K is great for gaming. People think, well, 8K is not taken off. There's no 8K content. And, our position is, well, there wasn't a lot of 4K content when 4K really started making penetration too. The value of 8K is incredible. Listen, it's cool to see, and it's been around for a couple of years, but the upscaling capabilities of 8K are fantastic because they use these AI algorithms, and it's fantastic. And whether it's upscaling from 4K or even 1080p, I've seen some amazing stuff. And the pixels are so tiny, you can get closer to a big screen. It's just fantastic. And I've seen some upscaled games, and really seriously, it's pretty cool. So that's one thing we're seeing. To go back to your original question before I forget what it was, we're seeing more features implemented in more products, more displays, and a wider range of products too. And I think that's the evolution now is this immersive, this incredibly dynamic, low latency experience is now pretty much available to a lot of people at a really affordable price.
Well, Brad, as we talk about the last 20 years, obviously the licensing side has been a massive, massive, massive part of that. As you guys have stepped through different technologies, you've rolled out, increased throughput, bandwidth, things like that. We've seen HDMI adoption in 4K. We talk about 8K now in gaming. The applications are endless, and really the next 20 years, it sounds like, are going to be really dependent on people sticking with some of that licensing and buying non-counterfeit cables and making sure that they've got the right license in the right place.
Mhm.
But Brad, we appreciate you coming on today, doing a quick recap of the last 20 years and letting us know some of the great stuff happening over in the world of HDMI.
Great. Well, thanks so much, Ben. I appreciate the time.
And thank you all for joining as well. Be sure to tune in next time.